It's 2 a.m. The room is quiet, the lights are off, yet your mind refuses to sleep. You replay that conversation from earlier. Did I say the wrong thing? Did they think I sounded stupid? Then, before the thought ends, another one crashes in. What if I fail tomorrow? What if I never succeed? The hours slip by and your body is exhausted, but your brain keeps running, as if it has somewhere more important to be than in the present moment. If this feels familiar, you're not alone. In fact, psychologists estimate that the average person has between 60,000 and 70,000 thoughts per day. But here's the shocking part. Almost 90% of those thoughts are repetitive. Like a broken record, the same loops replay again and again. This is the torment of overthinking, a mind that just won't stop talking. But why does this happen? Why does our brain, an organ designed to ensure our survival, turn against us, filling our nights with worries and our days with endless scenarios?
Why can't I hear myself think? Too many thoughts overwhelming me now.
The answer lies in the architecture of the mind itself. Neuroscience tells us that our brain has a system called the default mode network, or DMN. This is the part of the brain that becomes active when you're not focused on a specific task. Instead of resting, your mind starts wandering to the past, the future, to what if, and what could have been. In theory, this wandering helps us imagine, plan, and create. But when left unchecked, the DMN becomes a storm of noise, a constant commentary that never shuts off. And here's the cruel irony. The very mechanism that once kept our ancestors alive in the wild, scanning for danger, now traps us in cycles of worry. A rustle in the bushes used to mean predator. Today it means, what if I lose my job? What if they don't love me back? What if I fail at everything I do? Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff, a vast canyon stretching before you. Your body is safe, but your mind is dangling in midair, inventing dangers that aren't there. The ground beneath your feet is real. The cliff edge is real. But the story your mind tells, that's imagination. Overthinking is like falling into that canyon again and again, with no bottom in sight. Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." In many ways, overthinking is the unconscious mind hijacking the steering wheel. It whispers, "Remember that mistake? Don't forget it. What if it happens again?" It convinces you that replaying the past or simulating the future will protect you. But instead of protecting, it imprisons. Buddha saw the same truth over 2,000 years ago. He called it the monkey mind, a restless mind that jumps from branch to branch, never at peace. He taught that craving and aversion, the twin forces of desire and fear, keep this monkey restless. And in our modern age, the monkey is louder than ever. The brain is wired to seek certainty. But life is uncertain. So the mind spins stories, creating endless possibilities in an attempt to control the uncontrollable. It's like trying to stop the ocean with your bare hands. The waves will keep coming, and the harder you fight, the more exhausted you become. This is why overthinking feels endless, because it isn't solving problems, it's feeding them. Every new thought fuels the next, And the more we engage, the stronger the habit becomes. Psychologists call it rumination, and it's one of the strongest predictors of anxiety and depression. If you've ever lain awake wishing your mind had an off switch, you're not broken. You're human. Your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do: scan, imagine, and protect. But in a world without predators, that ancient design turns against us. Think about it. Lions and tigers may no longer chase us, but deadlines, social expectations, financial worries, and the endless scroll of social media. These are our modern predators. And your brain, still wired for survival, can't tell the difference. So here we are, in the age of technology, medicine, and comfort, yet more mentally restless than ever. We don't face lions anymore, but we face our own thoughts roaring at us from within. The real question is why? Why does the mind, in its attempt to protect us, end up making us suffer? Why do we create entire worlds of pain in our heads, even when reality is perfectly safe? That is where we turn next, into the psychology of overthinking, the evolutionary roots of our restless minds, and the deeper truths hidden in ancient wisdom. Overthinking does not come from nowhere. It is not simply a bad habit, nor just a flaw in your character. It is a pattern with roots in psychology, biology, and even philosophy. To understand why the mind loops endlessly, we must dig beneath the surface.
No.
Modern neuroscience shows that when the brain is not focused on a task, it activates what's called the default mode network. This network hums in the background, like an idle engine, and its specialty is rumination. It replays past conversations, worries about the future, and imagines endless scenarios. In other words, your brain is designed to talk to itself. Evolution favored this mechanism. Our ancestors who replayed dangers, who anticipated threats before they came, survived longer. Overthinking is the shadow of this survival instinct. The problem is, the modern world rarely has predators hiding in the grass. Yet the ancient machinery still runs, chewing endlessly on emails, relationships, bills, and what-ifs.
Why don't you ever listen to me?
I can't believe you said that.
Another root of overthinking is the drive for perfection. Many of us fear making the wrong choice, so we turn every decision into a labyrinth.
I did not do anything.
Should I send that message? Should I say yes to that opportunity? Did I phrase that sentence wrong? Behind this is the belief: if I can just think long enough, I can avoid pain. But reality does not cooperate. No amount of mental rehearsal can control the chaos of life. Carl Jung once wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." Overthinkers fear that acceptance, so they spin scenarios endlessly to try and shape a perfect self-image. For some, overthinking is born in childhood. If you grew up in an environment where you were constantly criticized, ignored, or punished unpredictably, the mind learns to stay on high alert. It scans every word, every gesture, looking for danger. This habit can continue into adulthood, analyzing texts, decoding tones, reading hidden meanings in silence. The overactive mind becomes a survival strategy. But as an adult, it chains you. What once protected you now imprisons you. At the heart of overthinking lies fear. Fear of uncertainty. Fear of losing control. Life is full of mysteries. Tomorrow is unwritten. Relationships are unpredictable. Careers are fragile. Instead of surrendering to that uncertainty, the mind tries to cover it with analysis. We imagine scenarios to tame the unknown. But instead of clarity, we create endless what-ifs that drown us in noise. The philosopher Soren Kierkegaard said, "Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom." With so many possible futures, the human mind trembles, and often it chooses endless thought over bold action. Overthinking is the illusion of control. We believe that if we think hard enough, we can guarantee an outcome. Yet control is smoke in the hands of a restless mind. Jung observed that much of what controls us is unconscious. When we try to control everything, we fall into what Buddha called the monkey mind, jumping, restless, unsatisfied. Finally, there is the deepest cause of all. Dostoevsky once wrote that man is a mystery, and if you spend your whole life trying to solve it, don't say you wasted your time. Overthinking, in its purest form, is the mind's desperate attempt to solve the riddle of existence. Why am I here? What is the point? This existential hunger for meaning can either drive wisdom or madness. Without grounding, it becomes endless rumination. But with guidance, it becomes philosophy, art, even enlightenment. In today's world, overthinking is amplified by constant comparison. Every scroll through social media offers new fuel. Am I successful enough? Attractive enough? Interesting enough? The brain, already wired to anticipate danger, now interprets other people's curated lives as threats to our own worth. And so we spiral. Maybe I should be more like them. Maybe I should have chosen differently. Maybe I'm falling behind. This endless comparison feeds self-doubt, which feeds more overthinking. So why do we overthink? Because our brains evolved to, because our past shaped us, because we fear the unknown, crave control, and long for meaning.
Until you make the unconscious
Overthinking is
conscious.
not proof that you are broken. It is proof that you are human. But the question remains,
Can the restless mind ever find peace?
to answer that, we must move to the next stage, the ways to quiet the storm, and how great thinkers, Jung, Buddha, and modern science, suggest freedom from the endless loop. Overthinking feels like being trapped in a cage with invisible bars. The mind whispers, just one more thought, one more scenario, and then you'll be free. But the more we think, the tighter the bars close. The question is not why the mind does this. We've already seen its roots in fear, trauma, perfectionism, and biology. The real question is, how do we step outside the cage? The answer is not to kill thought. Thought is not the enemy. As Jung reminded us, thinking is difficult, that's why most people judge. The mind has immense power. But when thought turns against us, we must learn to guide it, like taming a wild horse, not slaughtering it. The first step is awareness. Most people overthink unconsciously. They believe the stream of thoughts is reality, but awareness gives us distance. When you say, "This is overthinking," you create space between yourself and the thought. Instead of drowning in the current, you're standing on the shore, watching the river flow. Mindfulness practices train this awareness. Notice when your mind replays the past or rehearses the future. Label it gently. This is worry. This is rumination. By naming it, you loosen its grip. Overthinking feeds on time, yesterday and tomorrow, but the present moment is its greatest enemy. Buddha taught, "Do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." Simple acts bring us back. Feeling the breath in your chest, noticing your feet on the floor, touching a cup of tea with awareness. These are not trivial. They are antidotes. The restless mind cannot loop when it is fully present. Perfectionism is one of overthinking's strongest fuels. We fear mistakes, so we think endlessly to prevent them. But imperfection is not failure, it is truth. Life itself is imperfect. Relationships are messy. Choices are uncertain. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "We suffer not from events, but from our judgment of them." Overthinking dissolves when we accept imperfection. When we say, "I will not find the perfect answer." And that's okay. Action, even imperfect, often brings more peace than endless analysis. Overthinking is often energy trapped in the mind. One of the most healing moves is to externalize it. Write your thoughts in a journal. Paint them. Speak them to a friend. Once outside of you, they lose power. As Dostoevsky proved through his novels, suffering can be transformed into art. The page, the canvas, the conversation, all are places where thoughts find release instead of circling endlessly. Remember, fear of uncertainty drives much of overthinking. But what if uncertainty is not an enemy? What if it is life's greatest gift? Lao Tzu wrote, "When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be." Instead of analyzing futures to death, what if we welcome them? What if the unknown is not chaos but possibility? Shifting from "what if I fail" to "what if I learn" changes the entire tone of the mind. The mind and body are deeply linked. Anxiety in the mind often comes from tension in the body. That's why practices like yoga, breathwork, and walking in nature are not just wellness trends. They are psychological medicine. A calm body signals safety to the mind, and the mind stops spinning. When the shoulders drop, the breath slows, and the chest softens. The storm of thought begins to clear. We live in a world of constant noise. Screens, alerts, conversations, tasks. Silence is rare, almost frightening. Yet silence is one of the greatest cures for overthinking. When we sit in silence, whether in meditation, prayer, or simple stillness, we discover that thoughts are like passing clouds. They are not who we are. Beneath the noise, there is a deeper awareness, a quiet self untouched by the loops of worry. This is what spiritual teachers call the ground of being, what psychologists might call the observing self. At some point, overthinking must meet action. Rumination says, "Wait, think more. Maybe tomorrow." But healing often begins with the courage to move forward, even in uncertainty. Say the thing you're afraid to say. Make the decision you've analyzed to death. Send the message. Take the step. action cuts through the fog. It shows us that reality is not as terrifying as the imagination made it. Finally, the most important step, compassion. Many overthinkers hate themselves for overthinking. They say, "Why am I like this? What's wrong with me?" This only deepens the loop. Instead, recognize overthinking is your mind's attempt to protect you. It is misguided love, not malice. When you meet yourself with kindness, the tension softens. Jung believed that healing comes when we befriend our shadow, not when we destroy it. Overthinking is part of your shadow. It has lessons and it has limits. So, how do we stop overthinking? We do not kill thought, nor silence the mind with force. We guide it, we name it, we return to the present, we accept imperfection, we express what haunts us, we embrace uncertainty, we calm the body, we sit in silence, we act with courage, and above all, we meet ourselves with compassion. The storm does not vanish overnight, but slowly, like clouds parting after rain. The mind clears, and we see life, not through the fog of what-ifs, but through the light of presence. And this leads us to the final truth. Overthinking is not just a problem to fix, but a path to wisdom if we learn to walk with it differently. We often treat overthinking as a curse, something to battle, to silence, to eliminate. But what if the restless mind is not only a prison, but also a messenger? What if the very voice that won't stop talking is pointing towards something deeper, something unhealed, something unlived, something essential? Overthinking is not random noise. It is the mind's way of drawing attention to what matters. Beneath every loop is a hidden signal, a fear that needs to be faced, a wound that longs for healing, a desire that has been ignored.
Release it all, let go. I am here now.
When you replay a conversation endlessly, perhaps it's not just anxiety. Perhaps it reveals a deeper need to be heard, to be understood, to be accepted. When you obsess about the future, perhaps it's not only fear. Perhaps it's also yearning for growth, for meaning, for something larger than your current life. Even rumination on the past can be a signal. The mind keeps knocking on the same door because something inside still seeks closure. Seen this way, overthinking is not a flaw, but a teacher. It shows us where our soul is stuck. Dostoevsky once wrote, "Man is sometimes extraordinarily, passionately in love with suffering." He didn't mean we enjoy pain for its own sake, but that suffering, mental or physical, forces us to confront truths we would rather avoid. In the same way, overthinking is suffering that holds up a mirror. It asks, what are you avoiding? What are you afraid of? What do you truly want? This is why silencing thought completely is not the goal. We must first listen to it. Extract the lesson. Only then can we let it go. Carl Jung taught that the shadow is the hidden part of ourselves, the fears, desires, and truths we repress. Overthinking often is the shadow, speaking in circles. The restless thought is the shadow saying, "Don't ignore me, don't bury me." If we approach it with hostility, we deepen the split. But if we approach it with curiosity, we integrate what is hidden. And in integration, there is freedom. So how do we transform overthinking from enemy into teacher? Step 1. Listen without judgment. When the loop begins, ask, what are you really trying to tell me? Step 2. Translate thought into need. Is it a need for safety? Love? Certainty? Growth? Step 3. Act compassionately. Don't punish the mind. Give it what it seeks, in healthy form. If it wants certainty, give it presence. If it wants love, offer connection. If it wants meaning, choose action aligned with values. In this way, every loop becomes not a torment, but a doorway. Strangely, those who overthink are often the most self-aware, the most imaginative, the most compassionate. Why? Because they are deeply tuned to the inner world. Their suffering comes from sensitivity, but that same sensitivity is also their gift. Many of history's greatest minds were plagued by thought. Dostoevsky, Nietzsche, Virginia Woolf, Einstein, all wrestled with restless minds. But they also transformed those restless storms into art, philosophy, science, beauty. Your overthinking, too, can become a source of creativity, empathy, and wisdom if you stop fighting it and instead shape it. Most overthinkers want control. Control over outcomes, control over mistakes, control over feelings. But the irony is, control only feeds the loop. The real transformation begins not in control, but in compassion. When you tell yourself, it's okay to not know. It's okay to feel this. It's okay to be human. Then the storm softens. Not because the thoughts disappear, but because you are no longer their prisoner. Imagine this, your mind is a vast sky. Thoughts are clouds, sometimes thin, sometimes stormy, sometimes endless. But the sky itself, the awareness that holds them, is infinite, unshaken, eternal. Overthinking is just weather passing through. It is not who you are. The next time your mind won't stop talking, don't only ask, how do I silence this? Instead ask, what is this trying to teach me? For in the restless voice of overthinking lies the whisper of growth. And when we learn to listen with compassion, we no longer drown in the storm. We walk through it, carrying its wisdom into the light. And perhaps in the end, overthinking is not our curse. Perhaps it is the beginning of our awakening.